The night my sister-in-law changed the locks, I still had flour on my jacket from the bakery where I'd been covering a double shift. I pulled into the driveway of the house I had lived in for 2 years, the house where I had paid every single month without missing once, and my key wouldn't turn. I tried it again. Then again. I stepped back and looked up at the windows. The lights were on. Someone was home. My brother opened the door before I could knock. He didn't look surprised to see me standing there. That was the first thing I noticed. He looked like a man who had rehearsed this moment, and was now simply performing it. "We need you to find somewhere else to stay," he said, "starting tonight. I want you to take a second, and really sit with that. Starting tonight. Not a week's notice. Not a conversation. Not even the courtesy of telling me before I'd worked a 10-hour shift and driven 30 minutes home in the January cold. Starting tonight." Behind him, my sister-in-law appeared in the hallway. She was holding a mug of tea like she was watching something mildly interesting on television. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The slight smile at the corner of her mouth said everything. I had 2 boxes of my things already packed and sitting by the door. They had done this before I came home. While I was at work, while I was making other people's birthday cakes and wedding orders, and thinking about nothing except getting home and sleeping, they had gone through my room and packed my life into 2 cardboard boxes. My name is Nora. I was 31 years old. I had been living with my brother and his wife for 26 months, paying them $800 a month in cash, because my sister-in-law said she preferred it that way. I had a job I loved, a small savings account, and until that night, I thought I had family. What happened over the next 6 weeks is something I still think about when I can't sleep. Not because it hurt, though it did, but because of what I found out afterward. What had been happening behind my back for almost 2 years. What my sister-in-law had been doing with my name while I was busy paying her in cash and leaving no paper trail. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with what you need to know about my brother's house. He bought it 4 years ago, right after he married my sister-in-law. It was a nice house in a quiet neighborhood outside of Columbus. 3 bedrooms, a big kitchen, a backyard that nobody ever used. When my apartment lease ended and my roommate moved out of state, my brother called me and said there was a spare room, and I was welcome to it. $800 a month, utilities included. I said yes. For the first few months, everything was fine. My brother worked long hours in logistics and was rarely home before 7. My sister-in-law worked remotely, so she was usually there when I got back from the bakery. We were polite to each other. We watched television sometimes. She cooked elaborate dinners on Sundays, and I always said they were good, because they were. I want to be honest. I never fully trusted her. There was something careful about the way she talked to me. Like every sentence had been thought through before it left her mouth. But I told myself that was just her personality. Some people are private. Some people take time to warm up. I wasn't going to make things difficult over a feeling. So I paid my $800 every month. In cash. In an envelope. Left it on the kitchen counter on the first of every month, and she would take it without comment, sometimes without even acknowledgement. My brother told me she handled the finances. I didn't ask questions. I should have asked questions. Around month 8, small things started to shift. My sister-in-law began commenting on my schedule. Did I know I'd left the porch light on? Did I need to get home so late on weeknights? Once, she mentioned, very casually, that some of her jewelry had gone missing. She didn't accuse me directly, she just said it, let it sit in the room between us, like smoke. I told my brother. He said she was probably stressed about work. He said she didn't mean anything by it. By month 14, I was eating most of my meals in my room. Not because anyone told me to, but because the kitchen had started to feel like somewhere I needed permission to be. My sister-in-law had a way of entering a room and rearranging the air in it. I became smaller in my own in their home. My brother noticed less and less. He was promoted that year and was traveling 2 weeks out of every month. When he was home, my sister-in-law kept him busy. There were always dinners to go to, errands to run, friends of hers I'd never met filling up the living room on weekends. I became background noise. I stayed because the rent was reasonable, and because I was saving money. I had a plan. By the end of the year, I wanted to have enough for first and last month on my own place. I was close. I was so close. Then January happened. When my brother told me to leave that night, I didn't cry. I want to tell you that right now. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. And I didn't ask why, because the look on my sister-in-law's face told me that asking why was exactly what she wanted. She wanted a scene. She wanted tears. She wanted something she could describe to other people later. I looked at my brother and I said, "Did you know she packed my things while I was at work?" He looked at the floor. That was my answer. I picked up my 2 boxes. I carried them to my car. I came back for my laundry bag and my work bag. I stood in the doorway for one moment and I said, "I need receipts for every payment I've made." My sister-in-law laughed. Actually laughed. "You paid cash, Nora. There are no receipts." She said it like she was proud of it. Like the punchline of a joke she had been saving for a long time. I drove to my friend Dana's apartment that night. I slept on her couch. I didn't sleep much. I kept running numbers in my head. 26 months. $800. $20,800. Paid in cash. No receipts. No record. Gone. Dana let me stay with her for 2 weeks. I told her everything and she listened without interrupting, which is why she is one of the few people I would do anything for. On the 3rd day, she asked me one question that changed the direction of everything. "Did you ever use your address there for anything official?" I had. Of course I had. My driver's license, my voter registration, my bank statements, a store credit card I'd opened 2 years ago and rarely used. Dana looked at me very carefully and said, "You should check your credit." I checked it that night. I want to describe what it feels like to see your credit score and know, with absolute certainty, that something is wrong. It feels like the floor has moved, like gravity has shifted slightly, and the world is a degree off kilter, and you are the only one who can tell. My score had dropped 61 points since the previous year. There were 3 accounts I didn't recognize. A credit card opened 18 months ago. A second one opened 11 months ago. A financing account for electronics opened 7 months ago. All of them opened with my name, my social security number, my date of birth. All of them showing balances. All of them showing late payments. All of them registered to my brother's address. I sat in Dana's bathroom on the edge of the tub, and I held my phone, and I breathed through it. In and out. In and out. I thought about every time my sister-in-law had been alone in the house while I was at work. I thought about the filing cabinet in her office that I had walked past 100 times. I thought about the mail. How sometimes I would come home, and there would be a small pile of mail on the kitchen counter, and the next morning it would be gone. I had assumed it was junk. I had assumed a lot of things. I called the fraud department of the first bank the next morning before my shift. I explained the situation. I was on hold for 40 minutes. When someone finally answered and I gave them the account details, and they confirmed my personal information had been used to open the account, I was so unsurprised that I think it frightened the woman on the phone. She walked me through the dispute process. I wrote down every word. I did the same with the other 2 accounts that week. I filed a police report. The officer who took my statement had the kind of tired eyes that come from hearing stories like mine too often, but he was thorough and he was kind. He told me identity fraud within families is more common than most people realize. He told me the documentation trail would matter enormously. He told me to get a lawyer if I could afford one. I could not afford one at that moment. But I am someone who knows how to be patient when patience is the right tool. Here is what I did instead. I documented everything I could. Bank records, credit reports, the dates the accounts were opened, cross-referenced with dates I knew I'd been at work and my sister-in-law had been home alone. I printed everything. I put it in a folder. I built the most boring, methodical, devastating paper trail you have ever seen. I also, quietly, started reaching out to people who knew my brother. Not to gossip, not to vent. I want to be very clear about that. I reached out to 3 people. My brother's oldest friend from college, our Aunt Patrice on our mother's side, and a neighbor of theirs named Gerald who had been friendly to me on multiple occasions and who I happened to know kept a careful eye on the street. I told each of them, in different conversations, that I was dealing with a difficult situation involving financial accounts, and that I might need character witnesses at some point. I didn't overshare. I planted seeds. I watered them with nothing but patience and time. My brother called me 3 weeks after I left. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. He said he hoped I was doing okay. He said things had been stressful. He said maybe we could talk soon. He did not say he was sorry. He did not ask where I'd been sleeping. He did not mention the $20,000. I listened to the voicemail twice. Then I saved it. My sister-in-law called 4 days later. I answered, because I wanted to hear what she would say. She said that she and my brother had been thinking, and they felt it would be fair to return some of what I had paid, as a gesture of goodwill. She named a number. It was $3,000. She said it as though she were being extraordinarily generous. She said it with that same careful, rehearsed quality I had noticed years ago. I said, "That's kind of you. I'll be in touch." I did not tell her what I had found. Not yet. I contacted a legal aid clinic the following week. I qualified for their services. The attorney who took my case was a woman named Miss Okafor, who wore reading glasses on a beaded chain and had no patience for wasted time. I liked her immediately. I showed her everything I had: the credit reports, the police report, the account dates, the cash payment history. I had reconstructed as best I could from my own bank withdrawals, because even though I had paid my sister-in-law in cash, I had always taken the money out of my account, and those withdrawal dates lined up with the first of every month for 26 months. Miss Okafor looked at everything. She asked a few precise questions. Then she said, "You're in better shape than most people who come to me with this." The meeting she helped me arrange happened on a Saturday morning in April. It was at Aunt Patrice's house, which was neutral ground, which was important. My brother didn't know what the meeting was specifically about. I had told him, through Aunt Patrice, that I needed to talk through some financial issues with the family and that his presence would be necessary. He came. My sister-in-law came, because of course she did. She was not the kind of woman who let her husband go anywhere important alone. Gerald the neighbor came as a witness. My brother's college friend dialed in by phone. Aunt Patrice sat at the head of the table like a woman who had been waiting her whole life for a moment like this. I had printed copies for everyone. I laid out the documents slowly. I did not raise my voice. I explained each item the way Miss Okafor had coached me. Factually, chronologically, with no editorializing. The credit accounts, the dates, the Social Security usage, the police report number, the 26 months of cash payments, evidenced by my own withdrawal records. My brother went very still. My sister-in-law did not go still. She went the opposite. She started talking quickly, with that careful, rehearsed quality cranked up to a frequency I hadn't heard before. She said the accounts were a misunderstanding. She said she had intended to tell me. She said I had given her permission once. She was certain of it. She just couldn't remember when exactly. Aunt Patrice looked at her over folded hands and said, "Honey, stop talking." My sister-in-law stopped talking. My brother turned to her. The look on his face was one I recognized from when we were children, when he had been told something that rearranged his understanding of the world. He used to get that look when our parents argued, like a man trying very hard to solve an equation that keeps changing. He looked at the documents for a long time. Then he looked at me. I said, "I'm not asking you to choose. I'm asking for what's right." The discussion lasted 2 hours. I will not give you a scene-by-scene account, because some of it was private in the way that family pain is always private, and some of it was ugly in the way that confronted lies are always ugly. What I will tell you is that by the end of it, 3 things had been agreed upon. My sister-in-law would cooperate fully with the fraud investigation. My brother would begin repaying the $20,800 I had paid in cash, on a documented schedule, with a written agreement signed that day in front of witnesses. And I would not be attending their dinner parties anytime soon, which suited me just fine. My sister-in-law did not look at me when she signed the agreement. She looked at the wall slightly to the left of my head, the way people do when they are somewhere between furious and ashamed and can't afford to show either one. I drove home to my own apartment, which I had signed a lease on the week before. First and last month paid from the savings I still had left. and I sat in my empty living room on a folding chair Dana had lent me, and I thought about the last 2.5 years. I thought about every envelope of cash. Every month I had made myself smaller in someone else's kitchen. Every time I had swallowed a comment or a feeling because I told myself I was a guest and guests don't cause trouble. I thought about what it costs to be trusted by the wrong people. How the bill doesn't come all at once, but in small installments, quietly, until the day you check and find out what you've actually been paying. I want to say something to you directly, because I think some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Being family with someone is not the same thing as being safe with them. Love is not the same thing as trustworthiness. The people who should protect you are sometimes the exact people building the trap. That is a hard thing to hold. It does not get easier when you name it, but it does get clearer. I'm not telling you this story because I want sympathy. I have Dana. I have Aunt Patrice. I have a lease in my own name, and a credit report I am slowly, carefully rebuilding, and a folder of documents so thorough that Miss Okafor told me I had a future in paralegal work if the baking ever fell through. I'm telling you this story because the night my brother told me to leave, I sat in my car in his driveway for 4 minutes before I started the engine, not crying, just thinking. And what I thought was, I do not know what I'm going to do yet, but I will figure it out, quietly, completely. And I will not give anyone the satisfaction of watching me fall apart first. Sometimes that is all you have. The decision to be methodical when everything in you wants to be loud. The choice to document instead of detonate. The agreement is being honored. The payments come on time. My brother and I have had 2 phone calls since the meeting short. Careful, like people testing ice that may or may not hold their weight. I don't know what we are to each other now. I don't know if the word brother still means what it used to mean. But I know what my name means. I know what my credit means. I know what $20,800 in cash payments means when you have bank withdrawal records going back 26 months and an attorney who doesn't waste time. It means something. It means quite a lot, actually. If you've been watching from somewhere with your own story sitting heavy in your chest, the one you haven't told anyone yet, the one with the cash you can't prove, and the family member you can't quite bring yourself to name, I want you to hear this. Start documenting. Whatever you have, however small it seems. A text message, a withdrawal date, a voicemail you saved for no reason you could explain at the time. Start there. The paper trail doesn't build itself. But once you start building it, it does not stop. And neither do you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments, and if any part of this story sounds familiar, I'd really love to hear from you.